Well, Broncos country, a big report came out just about 10, 15 minutes ago per Adam Schefter that is very relevant to a Denver Bronco that is seeking a contract extension. We're going to get into that and a lot more on this episode. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Like, subscribe if you're not already. And let's get right into Nik Bonitto and what that contract is going to look like. He was kind of tied in with the George Karlaftis, right? Some fans were saying we should get it done before George Karlaftis. Others were saying, it might take seeing what the market for a young edge rusher like George Karlaftis is to be able to give Nik Bonitto an extension. Well, we've got all of that information right now per the guy, Adam Schefter. Chiefs in 2022, first-round pick George Karlaftis reached an agreement today on a 4-year, $93 million contract extension that includes $62 million in guaranteed money. Now, this is an extension. So he was a first-round pick. That's what's very important to know about him. He was a first-round pick. He had the fifth-year option. They're basically foregoing the fifth-year option and extending him 4 years out after this and giving him $62 million. Again, I'll pull this up. $62 million in guaranteed money of the $93 million. To be completely honest with you guys, this is a really, really, really good deal, right? You're talking about $22 million a year. Well, just over maybe $23 million, $23.5 million a year on average annual salary. And 62 of that is guaranteed. So it's probably something like 2.5 of those 4 years are guaranteed, right? The first 2 years are going to be fully guaranteed. That third year, if the Chiefs wanted to get out of it, they could, and they would eat still some dead cap, but they would have some cap savings. It's actually a really, really good deal. It's something that I would look at if I was George Payton and Sean Payton, and I would offer the exact same or a very similar contract to Nik Bonitto, something maybe 4-year, $93.1 million, some petty stuff that the NFL always does to make them the highest. But I think it's a very legitimate comparison. I think George Karlaftis is a very good player. Do I think he's better than Nik Bonitto? Not necessarily, but they're in ways kind of different overall players, right, than what they have. Let me pull up some of the stats just so we can kind of compare the two and be able to look at that. But, you look at Nik Bonitto, you look at George Karlaftis throughout his career right now. In the 3 years that he's played in the league, he had 6 sacks as a rookie, played in 17 games, 10.5 sacks in his second year, playing 16 games. And last year had a little bit of injuries, but still, started in 11 out of the 16 games and had 8 sacks. So 24.5 sacks throughout his 3-year career. Nik Bonitto in his 3 years, when you're looking at that, is going to be 1.5 his rookie year, did not play much at all. Then he popped off to 8. Then he jumped off to 13.5. So he's on a very, very good trajectory, as you can see. And he's at 23 sacks. So 1.5 sacks less than George Karlaftis. But he did that starting essentially 24 less games. So as a pass rusher and as somebody that's a disruptor in getting after the quarterback, Nik Bonitto is certainly superior to George Karlaftis. George Karlaftis is one of those guys, though. I would say, if you're going to compare him to somebody, he's more like a Jonathan Cooper or a Jonah Ellis type, where he's very well-rounded. He's very stout against the run. He's a little bit of a bigger guy, very good overall player that can be on the field a little bit more. But I like the deal, man. I think it's something that the Broncos should certainly look at it, exploring. Get ahead of it while you can, because it's only going to get more expensive for a player like him. He is really, like I said, taken off in his career. And I think he's just starting to hit his stride. And even though, Sean Payton had said some things after the mini camp, last time he had met with the media, he had talked about we have to kind of look at, dialing Nik Bonitto snap count back a little bit. And they felt like he played a little bit more last year than they would have liked. But I don't really mind that, because you're getting very, very high quality snaps to somebody like him. And even though he's not really the best run defender still, it's certainly something that he's getting a lot better at in terms of, setting the edge. His injury concerns that kind of plagued his career in the first year and a half seem to be behind him. And he's definitely revamped his body up. I mean, he's a much stronger, much bigger player than he was when he was a rookie. So I was pleasantly surprised by this. When I first saw the news right away from Adam Schefter that George Karlaftis and the Chiefs reached an agreement, I kind of cringed. I was like, oh man, if this is going to be a lot, this might price Nik Bonitto out. But to be honest with you, I think it's the opposite. Absolutely not. I love the idea that of signing him to an extension similar to this. It's not crazy. It's something that makes a ton of sense for both sides. And it's a very feasible contract for the Broncos. And really, when the big money starts to hit on this contract for someone like Nik Bonitto, you'll have a lot of flexibility with Jonathan Cooper, right? Maybe Jonah Ellis really takes that step and you can move on from him and get a lot of cap savings and kind of divvy up the money that way. So I like it. I think Nik Bonitto looks like he could be the next Bronco in line for a payday. I think you're going to hear a lot of reports in the coming day or so before camp. If there's specific guys that they feel like it's going to be a distraction going into camp, they'll get it done. Otherwise, they might just wait and get it done before the season like they did with PS2 last year. No one really knew much, or you didn't hear much about PS2 wanting an extension. He kind of kept it under wraps. He showed up every day. They didn't make it a big deal, and he ended up playing out. So that could be the lay of the land as well. But really like this deal for George Karlaftis and the Chiefs. Thinks it's something that makes sense. I hate the fact that the Chiefs are retaining one of their better defensive players, and they're able to sign these guys, even though they have Mahomes under a massive deal. But it's a good framework. It's really, really good framework. So I look for the Broncos to make at least a move or two. I would say if I was going to make a bet, they're probably going to want to get Sutton taken care of first, just because of the promises that they made last year, him going into camp. I don't think he's somebody that's going to, not show up or hold out or have any kind of distraction, anything like that. His history shows he's not that kind of guy, but I think that they would want to get that done, and then they could work on Zach Allen and Nik Bonitto, or John Franklin Myers or Luke Wattenberg, or, a mix of those guys. Don't know if they'll get all of them done, but we'll see. So we'll see what the strategy with the Broncos is. Let me know what you guys think below in the comments, man. This is going to be a quick one, but looking forward to seeing if there's new news, man. Hopefully the Broncos can make some noise and extend some of their own guys before camp starts this week, baby. We got training camp. We got a lot to talk about in the coming days. So I appreciate you guys riding with me. Until the next video, y'all have a wonderful day, man. Go Broncos. Peace.